Michael, I just wanted to say I'm so proud of you. It's nice to see you enjoying yourself. I hope you see new things. I hope you feel new things. But most of all, I hope you understand that this time is yours. Love, Mom.
See the world like an insider with Chase Sapphire Reserve. Make more of what's yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Olson. I write about movies for the Los Angeles Times, and thank you for joining us for another of our series of LA Times Talks here at the Sundance Film Festival. And we are so fortunate today to be talking about the film Exhibiting Forgiveness, and we have the filmmaker and the just powerhouse cast for the film, and so we want to bring them up to the stage now. And so joining us today, we have Earl Jelks, André Holland, Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor, Andra, and filmmaker Titus Kaphar. And now, Titus, I'll start with a question for you, in that this project began as a documentary, and then you switched over to fiction. And can you talk a little bit about that process of
about why I transitioned? So the moment in the film. Did you guys see the film? Who saw the film? Okay, great. I'm probably not supposed to talk to the audience. Okay, I'm gonna do that. So exactly. So there's a moment in the film where Terrell is interviewing his father, and that is almost pulled directly from life. I interviewed my father and created a documentary based on that. The thing that was dissatisfying about it is it only explained that moment right there now. And so going into fiction allowed me to be able to speak about how we got to that moment. And so it also, as I said last night, gave me a cover to be able to tell more truth. Sometimes the data, the facts, get in the way of actually getting to the core of the truth of the experience. So that's why I chose to go with fiction.
And now, André, the film features a lot of Titus's paintings, and on the film there are moments when you are, involved in creating what are meant to be those paintings. I understand you studied painting with Titus for a few months, and can you talk a bit about that process? And can I ask, did you get good?
Yes, he did.
I think that's a question for that man. Good morning, everybody. Thank y'all for being here. Yeah, the process, it was about 3 months. When we first started talking, I think we both agreed, Titus and I, that if we were going to do it, that it needed to feel as authentic and as lived in as possible, the painting specifically. So yeah, from the very first day, I went to the studio and he said, all right, let's start mixing some paint and grab a brush and let's start working. And it was rough to start, I would say. But I think what I found in it is that I really enjoyed it. It felt like a meditation. Yeah, whether or not I'm good, I don't know. I don't think it's my gift, but I enjoyed the process.
He could do it.
And Aunjanue, I want to ask you, the film really deals in part with generational trauma and sort of what we let go and what we carry forward with us. And in that way, it's reminiscent of your performance in the new film Origin, which in theaters now. If you haven't seen it, I hope you will.
I didn't want to say that, but thank you.
And I know that you're very intentional in the roles that you choose. And can you talk a little bit about that as a subject matter that you've been wanting to explore in your work?
I think that, I know that my initial conversation that I had with Titus, which started in 2022, I just felt a tremendous amount of commonality, common space, particularly with religion and the church experience, and how we both have been affected by it in very unique singular ways, but also in ways that we really could, share. And I just felt that was a way for me to kind of exercise those things in the film. And I just think if you don't know Titus Kaphar's visual art, do you guys know his visual art? Yes, let's shout out. I think he's one of the most important voices in the art world, period. So I was going to do it anyway, you know. And then he's just a lovely, lovely human being, and I just knew that this was something that I would have a good time doing.
And Andra, I want to ask you, there's a line in the film that comes up a couple times, "It's my turn." And you, as an artist in the film yourself, who's in a relationship with another artist, and the two of you are having to sort of, who gets to take the lead and who's, pursuing their art fully, who's minding things at home. Can you talk about that aspect of the film and what that meant to you as an artist yourself and someone who maybe has to find that kind of balance in your life?
I'm way more selfish than Aisha, so I can't. I'm just kidding. It's gonna be my turn. No, I'm just kidding. No. It was. I think it was actually. I think we have to do it. I think that there's there's definitely a relatability there. For me, it was more about just the hunger. Like, I know, I guess Aisha and I are at different points in our career, but I feel just as hungry as she is at that point in her career. So, but I understand needing to put it on the back burner for things. I happen to not be married. I don't have kids. So, but I think for family, putting it on the back burner and supporting and loving in that way, it was something I really wanted to. Not that I'm like that with people in my life, but it was really nice to explore that in a real family dynamic. So, I think it's really just, and to be honest with you, I don't know, I'm not saying that this is the way that it is and the way it's supposed to be, but I think most women in the audience can understand that aspect, fortunately and unfortunately, you know what I mean? So there's a little bit of it that's inherent. We're familiar with it, so it was more so bringing that to the character. But for me, it was, her support is more about being consistent, and the drive is what I related to the most. It's still staying hungry, no matter what you have to do, no matter what comes first, to not lose that hunger, because it's not just for you, it's for your family, the people around you, and whoever will be impacted by what you make.
And Titus, can you talk about that aspect of the film that you, on top of the father-son relationship that's in the movie, in some ways it's also an exploration of the life of the artist, and how do you find that balance in your life, and how does your art fit into your life, and what made you want to explore that as part of the story?
So I feel like, coming from the art world that I come from, there really isn't it doesn't feel like there's a huge respect for family. I'm a family man. I'm married, I have 2 kids. I love my family. They influence a lot of my work, and my family is first. Being a painter is just who I am. Being an artist is just who I am, but my family is first. So the script had to reflect those kinds of wrestling. So Terrell is in the studio doing his thing, having a studio visit, and then you got to go play with the kids because it's time for you to go play with the kids. That's what it is. They want to wrestle with daddy now, so you got to go do that. I think I've seen so many films about artists where the imbalance is about their personal drug addiction, their selfishness, and the artists that I know, the ones that are part of my circle, are actually incredibly disciplined people. And so I wanted to show a different kind of artist.
And John, I want to ask you that most of your career has been on the stage doing theatrical work, and what did it mean to you to get a role, for a screen role like this?
Well, here's a quick story. With this, I mean, I remember when I was auditioning for this, and I had a chance to have a Zoom meeting with Titus. I had read the script, and everything on this just jumped off the page to me. So he said, "What do you think?" That was the first question while we were on the Zoom. I said, "Man, everybody's cast perfectly in this." I said, "The only thing that's missing from this is me." And he looked.
My guy.
Yeah. He said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, man, I'm not going to be shy telling you that. The only thing that's missing is me." I related to this character a lot because I've seen this guy. I know this guy. This guy is in my family. And one of the things about doing theater is that if you can see a character that's on the page, it's the saying we have with theater. If it's on the page, we can take it to the stage. But if it's not on the page, we can't take it to the stage. This was on the page, so I already knew we can take this to the film. And with each stroke, it was going to get better and better and better.
And Titus, what was it like for you as a first-time filmmaker? I mean, this is a very powerful and formidable cast of
You
actors
damn right.
here. What was it like for you directing them? I know for myself, I would find that a humbling and intimidating experience.
Every day. Every day. Now, the truth of the matter is, I'm not going to say this. My agent told me not to say this. I'm sorry, I'm not going to say what I was about to say. But,
I'm sorry, I'm a journalist. I have to say, please say it.
but she's right
Let's
there,
hear it.
you
Let's
know,
hear it.
and she has to drive me to my next spot after. So, no, it wasn't hard. We actually enjoy one another, and I felt intimidated initially, but we had spent so much time building relationship one-on-one. I mean, we spoke for hours. I spoke for hours to every single person on this cast. I flew to Chicago just to hang out with this dude before we even started. So we had a relationship. So it didn't feel like a kind of like formal directing thing. It was like we're having a conversation. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room here. These people are giants. They're extraordinary at their craft. There's not a lot I had to do. There's really not a lot I had to do. Derek said this from the beginning. Choose people you trust and get out of the way and let them be great. And they're great.
And André, for you, was it a challenge knowing that you're playing a character based on your director? He's right there every day. Did you feel like in some ways you were trying to play Titus, or when did it become the character in someone else?
Well, I think, that was a thought that I had early on, but I think the magic in acting is like when, the actor and the character kind of meet somewhere in the middle. It's not about, in my opinion, it's not about trying to become anybody or become some other person, but there are parts of myself that I can lend to the character, and there are, parts of the character of Titus that, I'll borrow, and then the magic is kind of somewhere in the middle. And so I think early on you were saying, I'm not playing you, I'm playing the character that's on the page. And there were definitely certain like mannerisms and things just from us talking, and I was like, I'll borrow that. But I think the character was a sort of co-creation between the two of us, so yeah.
And Aunjanue, I want to be sure to ask you, there's a scene between you and André. You're watching a ball game together, and it's become so emotional and so intense. And you do something I feel like I've never seen an actor do before. Like your whole body sort of starts to shake as if you're sort of overtaken by something. And is that something that you walk into the scene knowing you're going to be doing, or is that something that just sort of for you happens in the moment?
What had happened was, I feel such a connection with André, working with him. I mean, he is one of the most honest actors that I've ever worked with, and just so kind and is so intent on the story being told no matter what. And everything that is outside of that has to get out of the way. I'm not lying, right? Just come on, man. I'm not lying. So what happened was we were having a scene, and he said something to me that I was untapped in me, that I wasn't aware of personally. And I was having like a real-time response to that.
And André, what is it like as a performer to sort of be in a scene in a moment like that with someone else?
is what you hope happens. It's that magic thing, that like you work hard for, you plan for, you prepare for, but that you don't know if it's gonna come. But then it comes, and with Aunjanue, it comes a lot because, we did a show on Broadway together many, many years ago, and man, I remember I used to be so scared to go out there with Aunjanue because I said, I don't know what's gonna happen tonight, but she might pick.
I didn't know what I was doing.
No, yes, you did. She's the kind of she'll pick the play up and walk off with it if if you don't come ready, and that was very much like that. She's just brilliant artist, and so yeah, I think again that like the trust I think we have in each other and love we have for one another, and our Southern roots I think helps us to
Mississippi, Alabama,
and Mississippi help us to communicate, and I think that space between us, I think in that moment, yeah, some magic happened. So thank you for that, sis.
And Andra, I want to be sure to ask you. There's a moment in the film where you're singing on camera. Your character, you're in a recording studio and you're singing, and I'm curious what that's like for you as a performer, as a singer. What's the distinction of singing sort of on camera for the camera, especially in a moment like that?
That's a good question. And I think my very honest answer is that there's not really a distinction, and I don't think there should be if you're trying to get an authentic performance, So, to me, every time they hit play or we say go or action or then I'm performing as if I want to get the vocals right. I don't like sounding terrible, so I don't like, So, yeah, I think there's something about. It's actually a pretty simple answer, which is that there's not a difference, and I don't think there should be a difference if it's going to actually be grounded and authentic. So, yeah.
And John, I want to ask you that your character in the film, in another telling of this story, he would be much more clearly villainized, and I think there'd be a lot less empathy for that character. And what did it mean to you and to your performance, the way in which the depiction of that character was? That there is, as much as he is the villain of this story at moments, there also is so much heart and empathy for him.
Oh, wow. I guess the way to answer that for me is that I think I said this yesterday too, is that I just want to make sure made sure that he stayed human through it, you know what I mean? Because all humans have flaws. And so if this guy was going to be forgiven or be going to find any type of redemption at the end, he had to be human. He had to come across like this really happened to him. And for him to be forgiven, he had to learn to forgive himself. So I think what happened with LeBron is that he forgave himself a while back, even before he became homeless, or during that time he became homeless. He forgave himself. But then he had to figure out how can he get his kid and his ex-wife to understand that I need this forgiveness for me to go on. So I was hoping that would come across, if anything, that this guy was human enough to be able to do that, yeah.
So, this script is in a lot of ways really based on life, and I've had challenges with my father, but I say this, with all of the problems I had with my father, there was actually no time where I ever wondered whether that man loved me or not. Did he have the capacity to show it in ways that were healthy? Not all the time, but there was no moment where I felt like my father is actually a villain. I wasn't trying to write a villain. That wasn't interesting to me. So the structure of the film is set up in a way where I hope you feel compassion for this character that, in a different kind of movie, you are made to believe that he is the person that you are supposed to detest throughout the film. That's not what I wanted to do. That's oversimplified.
And Titus, I want to ask you that your paintings feature quite prominently in the film. You created a whole series of paintings for the film. And can you talk about that process? Like, were you painting as you were writing? Like, the paintings are such a part of the storytelling. How did they, what was the sort of process for you of creating those paintings for this film?
I was describing it the other night this way, but essentially the experiences led to the writing led to paintings. The paintings evolved into the script. And then that script became the film, and then the film actually inspired more paintings. So it's just been kind of this circular pattern that's been happening throughout the process. It is still happening. My dream is that when we premiere this film, we'll have a few occasions where you watch the film, and after you finish the film, the walls come down, you walk out of the space, and you enter into the gallery where the paintings are. You will have just spent 2 hours understanding the intent, the meaning of these works. And so when I have experimented with this in my studio, people's reaction to it is really different from the way they react to work in the world normally.
And do you think you want to continue doing that moving forward? Are you going to have to like make a movie for every one of your exhibitions?
I'm down to try.
And we have time for just 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Does anyone have any questions? Yep, right here in the front.
Hi, Evan Jackson from Young Golden Regal. This is a question for everybody. What did you learn about
Oh, sorry, we've got a microphone there. Sorry.
Evan Jackson's from Young Bold and Regal. What did you learn about yourself while making this film?
For me, I learned that I'm not a bad person. And that my kids still love me, you know what I mean? Yeah, I learned that I can still be, I can do this kind of work and still be a good person. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we do this kind of work and we're not sure where it's gonna go, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I mean, I didn't think I was gonna be able to pull off the really, really hard parts of this. And then once it happened, I was like, okay, I did that, and I can still be a good person. You know what I mean? Because some of this was kind of hard, like being mean to the younger version of my son. That was really, really hard.
Foreman in the audience, y'all.
Yeah, he's here someplace, right? And I also learned that forgiveness is a real thing. It's a real thing, but if you learn to forgive yourself first, the rest is probably going to be bestowed on you.
Does anyone want to add anything? And we can take another question.
Hi, everyone. How are you feeling?
Great.
I'm Naya Good with Sheen Magazine, so good to see you all. My question is for anyone who wants to answer. In what ways, hold on, as you were. Okay, so have you all chosen to forgive someone in your life since you all have gone through the process of filming this amazing film? Congratulations on it as well. Who have you chosen to forgive so far since you did the film?
I'll answer that a little bit differently. I think the process for me of writing the film and watching it being performed, I've said this also in interviews, there are moments in the film where, there's one in particular where André and John are in the gallerist's office upstairs, and there's so much intensity in that moment. I yelled cut and couldn't stop crying for half an hour, and I had to leave the set. It was too much. It was really too much. But what I think this whole process has helped me realize is that forgiveness has to be very specific for me, what it looks like for me. It has to be about my engagement with the other person, not necessarily theirs. So for me, the theme of what Terrell is saying is that this may not look like forgiveness for you, but for my healing, what needs to happen for my healing is I need to approach this way. I'm not gonna carry this burden anymore. I'm leaving it right here. You're free of it, I'm free of it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're walking together into this future, but you're forgiven.
And that's please. That's a wonderful place for us to wrap up. Please, everyone, join me in congratulating the creative team behind Exhibiting Forgiveness. And if you could just do us a favor and stay in your seats for just a moment as our guests exit the stage. Thank you, everyone.